Good morning. Welcome Beyond SEAF Model. I'm Jack Kosar. This is effective for the week of March 9th, 2026. Let's get started. SEAF signals for this week. We retain utilities and industrials, and we trade out energy for materials. As we can see here, energy, note that these flows are through 3/5 of 2026. I know we're getting this video out a day late. We had some technical difficulties in the office yesterday, so appreciate everybody being patient. But just a keynote, data through 3/5. So anything that has happened prior to that is not reflected in the current video or what I'll be talking about today. So with that being said, energy coming back, after being the leader for the last couple of weeks. Took a week off and came right back here to being the top spot. And then we see utilities with some strength with 2s for the tactical month and the trading week, as well as a 3 in the strategic quarter. And then industrials hanging on by a thread here with 2 in the strategic quarter and 4 in the tactical month, but seeing a little bit of a downturn on the trading week with a pretty high score of 16. Obviously, it's not green in the favored. Question to be asked here is, do we still take that signal? And the invariable answer is yes. The SEAF signals are based on the top 3. So even if this score is relatively high, we still take our top 3 signals, in which case includes energy, utilities, and industrials. Financials continues to sit here near toward the bottom, and technology doing a little bit of comeback here. Being held back by that strategic quarter, but showing some life here on the trading week and the tactical month. Heading into our heat map. Things look good for energy as of last week, 0.55% coming in on the trading week, so we just had a little bit of a blip here. Utilities looking strong as well with 0.23% on the trading week. These two showing relative strength. Outside of that, industrials negative 3.3 down, but again, still being held up by that accumulation we're seeing on the tactical month in the strategic quarter. Big loser here for financials, negative 0.53% outflow. This continues some real strong accumulation of outflows that we were seeing in the financials. Everything else kind of middling, nothing really pushing too far outside of, again, industrials and financials, and energy and utilities. Everything else was relatively normal. We were down negative 2.12% last week for the total sector spiders. So that, kind of interesting, and seems, money kind of flowing out of the markets. A lot of this seemingly is directed via geopolitical stuff. So that's something to kind of keep an eye on, is that, depending on the message coming out of Washington, and really depending on what's going on in the Middle East, seems to be driving a lot of this current market movement. With that being said, sector spider total AUM broke down through its 21-day moving average. Again, these are largely through last week. So, what we're seeing here is these downward moves. We've had a little bit of a rebound since the making of these particular charts, but overall, definitely seeing some outflows on the 11 sector spiders here. So, what is this going to be? Is this going to be a quick little blip, or excuse me, a little bit more of a prolonged down move? That is a question we do not know, but as of right now, under the 21-day moving average means we're seeing a little bit of weakness in the S&P 500 in the terms of asset flows. Heading into our rainbow charts, again, looking at energy. Energy looking relatively strong upflow. This is that little dip that we were seeing, and you can see it here on the relative performance side of the chart here too. We went slightly sideways to slightly down, or sideways here briefly. That absence of flows came right before what we were expecting in terms of some movement geopolitically. So we took a little bit of a breath. Apologies. Re-engaged here. So energy still looking relatively strong through last week. Utilities in a similar manner, nice, strong, positive relative outperformance versus SPY. Coming up here and testing some resistance on the relative performance versus SPY chart, but overall positive looking. We do tend to do well when we have these moves from avoid to neutral into favored. If we can sustain this upper favored territory, things will still continue to look good for utilities. Industrials is taking a little bit after peaking here and having a really nice strong run in its relative outperformance versus SPY, seemingly coming down. Whether this is profit taking for managers or something else is yet to be determined, but kind of coming back down or breaching into this neutral just a bit. And we'll have to see where utilities comes from here. Industrials comes from here. A pretty strong move, but another week trading week, and we'll be down into this mid-neutral, potentially even to avoid. So industrials, again, nice long run, sitting up here possibly at the top of a move. Want to just make sure that we're careful here. This is a SEAF signal, but we are seeing some flows coming out. Is this a 1 week blip? That is a good question. We do not know. So this thing could be check mark right back up into favored, and we'll be fine. We'll have that little bit of profit taking, and then we could either re-engage or continue to hold the signal. But right now, this 1 week kind of 1 week sell off outflow here that we're seeing on industrials. We could see that in the chart again. Still sitting in that lower favored upper neutral area, but definitely seeing a little bit of pullback on that relative performance versus SPY. Financials, I always like to show you guys how this thing works in reverse as well. So we've been in that deep void, as we kind of spiked into a void, tried to come back up, and then reached back down. We've had a nice consistent downtrend for financials, consistently seeing money flow out of financials, and this resumes a broader trend of underperformance that we've seen going back to last year. So financials continues to be a place to avoid, and it continues to find that trend. Where this bottom is, we really don't know in terms of its relative performance versus SPY. If you guys remember energy from last year or healthcare from last year, a lot of the times, we were talking about finding that relative performance bottom. We haven't seen it yet. So nothing to suggest that this is a bottom here. We would need to start to see some flows coming in that other direction in order to identify this as a bottom for financials, but this continues to be in a void. Sorry. I wanted to bring up consumer discretionary. Saw that kind of positive movement here. 3 on the trading week, a darker 9, a lighter 9, and then into the 3. Starting to see us climb out of that deep void spot, kind of peaking ourselves up into neutral, seemingly finding a bottom on the relative performance chart. This isn't a leadoff opportunity yet, but just just where we're starting to see that turnaround, starting to see consumer discretionary move itself off the bottom. So, place to watch for right now, but definitely not an action item for consumer discretionary. Last but not least is technology. And I want to bring up technology again, looking at that kind of starting to positively trend in the right direction after being in a pretty deep void for, what is that, a couple weeks, if not a couple months. What I'm seeing here, though, is we got a little bit of support here on the relative performance side of the chart. Again, I'm not suggesting a leadoff here for technology, but what we are starting to see is, as we climbed up to that top, to that peak, we started to trend down, downward, and we tested this support level here and seemingly bouncing off the support level again. What we need to see is another strong week from energy in terms of asset flows can start to kind of push us up into that upper neutral, lower favored area before we really start to take a lead off here, or this becomes a SEAF signal. But just an interesting pattern on the chart here as we seem to be holding the support level in XLK in the relative performance versus SPY. That is all I have for you this week. I look forward to breaking down the SEAF model with you all next week, and thank you.